Hey, everybody, and welcome to another deep dive with us today. And we're going to be talking about something that's really interesting and pretty hot right now. We're going to be talking about how to hire Tizen developers.
Yeah, everyone's talking about the metaverse and wearables these days, and this is kind of the core technology that's making a lot of that possible.
That's right. And, y I think when a lot of people hear Tizen, they kind of think, wait a minute, is that like, is that food
Yeah,
or something? What is that?
yeah, exactly. Tizen is an operating system. It's open source,
Right.
and it's really designed to run on everything from, your refrigerator to your car to your
Not
watch
TV.
to your TV, all these devices that need
Yeah.
a really lightweight and efficient operating system.
Right. And so that's what's so cool about it is it's really designed for performance and for devices with limited resources.
Yeah.
But the problem is, and this is what we're going to try to tackle today, is how do you actually find these developers?
Right.
The talent pool is limited.
Yeah.
These guys are in high demand.
Well, and it's a specialized skill set
Right.
that you really need to know what you're looking for.
And this is something that, thankfully, the perfectdeveloper.com has really kind of cracked the code on this.
Absolutely. They've got a whole playbook on this.
And they've got this really great tool called the 5 questions. It's a
Mhm.
great way to kind of figure out, what do I really need in a Tizen developer? So I highly encourage everyone listening, before we even get started, head over to theperfectdeveloper.com, check out those 5 questions. It's going to help you really kind of hone in on what you're looking for. So let's dive into this. When you're thinking about hiring a Tizen developer, what are some of the key skills that you absolutely have to have?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is you need somebody who's comfortable working with C
Uh-huh.
and C++. plus plus.
Okay, so kind of the classic programming languages.
Exactly. It's really the foundation of
Right.
a lot of these embedded systems.
Got it.
But then you also need someone who's comfortable with JavaScript because Tizen has a lot of web technologies built into it as well.
So it's this interesting blend of like, classic programming and then kind of the more modern web development stuff.
Yeah, and the key here is that you need someone who understands how to optimize for performance on devices that don't have a lot of resources.
Right. So we're not talking about just any JavaScript developer.
Exactly.
We're talking about somebody who really understands how to write efficient code.
Right. Someone who can squeeze every last bit of performance out of these
Right.
tiny little devices.
And that's where the experience really comes in, right?
Absolutely. You're not going to find a junior developer who can do that right out of school.
Right. They need to have that experience of working with those constraints.
And the perfectdeveloper.com really stresses this in their playbook.
They do.
They talk about how you need someone who's really wrestled with these resource constraints
Right.
because they develop this almost like a sixth sense for how to write efficient code.
So they can spot those bottlenecks
Mhm.
and optimize things in a way that maybe somebody else wouldn't even think of. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we've got C++ JavaScript. We've got this experience with resource-constrained programming. What else are we looking for here?
Well, one of the things that comes to mind is memory management.
Okay.
I mean, this is a big one.
Yeah.
When you're talking about a device that only has, a limited amount of memory,
Right.
you really need to be careful about how you're allocating and deallocating memory.
So you don't want to have those apps that are, crashing all the time or slowing down the device.
Exactly. An experienced Tizen developer will know how to do that efficiently.
So it's almost like it's not just about writing code that works. It's
Yeah.
about writing code that's elegant
Right.
and efficient.
Yeah, it's like writing a haiku instead of a novel.
Right.
Exactly.
You've got to really kind of be precise with your language.
And another important thing is familiarity with the Tizen frameworks and libraries.
Oh, okay. So what do we talk about there?
Well, one of the big ones is the Tizen Web API.
Okay.
This is what you use to build those beautiful user interfaces. Right.
That you see on Tizen devices.
Okay.
So, if you want to have a really slick-looking smartwatch app,
Right.
you need somebody who knows how to use that API.
So it's not just enough to know, web development in general.
Right.
You have to know the specifics of Tizen.
Exactly.
Got it. And then what about, you mentioned the Internet of Things.
Yeah.
Is there anything specific to that?
Yeah. If you're building an IoT device that runs on Tizen,
Right.
you're going to need somebody who's familiar with frameworks like IoTivity.
IoTivity. Okay.
This is what allows your device to connect to the internet
Right.
and talk to other devices.
So all that smart home stuff,
Exactly.
that's really kind of taking off right now.
Right.
That's all powered by this.
And that's why Tizen is so exciting.
Right.
Because it can run on all these different types of devices.
Okay, so this is all great. But I'm sure everyone listening is thinking the same thing right now. How much is this going to cost me?
Right. Oh, that's the
That.
million-dollar question.
Yeah.
It is. So let's talk about money. What are we looking at here?
Well, as with any kind of software development,
Right.
experience is a big factor.
Okay.
A senior developer who's been working with Tizen for years
Right.
is going to command a higher rate than someone who's just starting out.
Yeah.
That makes
It's
sense.
like hiring a seasoned architect versus someone who just graduated from architecture school.
Exactly. You're paying for that experience
Right.
and that knowledge.
And then what about location? Does that play a role?
It does. The US and Canada tend to be on the higher end,
Okay.
whereas you might find more competitive rates in regions like Asia.
Interesting.
But theperfectdeveloper.com actually cautions against just going for the lowest rate
Really? Why is that?
because they found that sometimes those lower rates can come with communication challenges
Oh,
or cultural differences that can actually make the project more difficult in the long run.
so you really got to weigh the pros and cons.
Exactly.
It's not just about the bottom line.
Yeah. It's about finding the right fit for your team.
Got it. So we've talked about skills, we've talked about cost.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about the different ways to actually hire these developers.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to go full-time? Do we want to look at freelancers? What are our options here?
Well, if you're building a long-term product
Right.
and you need someone who's going to be dedicated to your project,
Yeah.
full-time might be the way to go.
Go.
You have that consistency.
Right.
You have someone who really understands your vision.
But what if you just need something, short term? You just
Yeah.
need a quick fix for something.
Well, in that case, a freelancer or an agency might be a better fit.
Okay.
They can bring in that specialized expertise for a specific task,
Right.
and then you can, scale your team up or down as needed.
That flexibility is really appealing.
It is.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, okay, we've talked about the different ways to hire them.
Yeah.
But the question is, where do we actually find these people? Are we talking about, going to like obscure internet forums and putting up smug signals?
Well, hopefully not. There are some better ways than that.
Okay, good.
Your usual job boards are a good place to start,
Right.
but you're probably going to have better luck with platforms that specialize in niche tech skills.
Right. So you're talking about like theperfectdeveloper.com, for example.
Exactly. They've got a whole network of pre-vetted developers,
Yeah.
and they really understand the Tizen ecosystem.
Okay. So they can help us kind of weed through all the noise and find the people who actually know what they're doing.
Exactly. You don't want to waste your time interviewing people who just dabbled in Tizen for a week.
Right. You want the real experts.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's say we found a few candidates. What are some red flags that we should be looking out for?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is to really dig into their experience.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to ask them technical questions.
Right.
Ask them about specific challenges they've faced in Tizen development.
Yeah.
Ask them how they've optimized code for devices with limited resources. Ask them about their experience with different Tizen frameworks and libraries.
So it's not just about looking at their resume and seeing, okay, they've got Tizen listed there.
Right. It's about having a conversation with them
Right.
and really understanding their depth of knowledge.
And you really want to make sure they can walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
Exactly. And, the great thing is,
Yeah.
once you find those great Tizen developers,
Right.
you're really poised to capitalize on this huge wave of growth.
That's right. I mean, we're talking about wearables. We're talking about the Internet of Things,
Smart homes.
connected cars. I mean, it's everywhere.
It's the future.
It really is. And Tizen is right at the heart of it.
Exactly. So getting in on this now is a really smart move.
Absolutely. So, okay, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about the skills that you need to look for in a Tizen developer.
Yep.
We've talked about how much you can expect to pay.
Right.
And we've talked about where to find these developers and how to make sure you're hiring the right ones.
And how to avoid those red flags.
That's right. So hopefully you're feeling a little bit more confident now about navigating this whole Tizen world.
And if you're still feeling a little bit lost,
Yeah,
theperfectdeveloper.com is a great resource.
they really are.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got all kinds of information on their website. They've got articles. They've got those 5 questions.
The playbook.
Yeah, the playbook.
Right.
So definitely check them out. And, good luck on your Tizen journey.
Happy coding.
That's right.